Good day and welcome to Lifestyle Podcast. My name is Arthur Mofokate and I'm chilling with Nongelo Chuime. How are you?
So good, man. Thank
Are
you
you well?
so much. Yeah, no, I'm good. And yourself?
Number what?
Itadaso.
When but you've been coming to this premises.
Yeah,
Nje.
no, this is home, man. This is
Yeah.
home for me. This is
You
home
know.
for me. Yeah. Yeah, le good man biliskuka singaga.
Raising you, ne?
Protea South, Soweto.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's been a long relationship.
You know, Nongelo, there's something
Yeah.
very funny talking about that. You know, I've seen you since you were a kid and you grew up, you disappeared, and then I started meeting you as a colleague, and suddenly you remind me, hey, you know, I'm that boy that you used to carry when I was young.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
How does it feel though?
It's you know, it feels very interesting. No, it can't feel interesting. It feels nice.
Awkward.
Actually. Awkward and nice. Because you must remember, at that time, I was young. I did not. You were a big thing.
Yes.
You still are. So when you reflect, you're like, yo, you had a whole Arthur Mofokate au kuka when you were young. So it's something to share with peers my age. To say,
Yeah.
so it's an interesting story to tell your friends and your peers.
To those that don't know who Nongelo Chuime is, this is the late Mom Connie Chume's son. And I used to visit the house when he was still a baby boy, and the mom has always been a superstar, and may her soul rest in peace. Are you well, my brother, though?
No, I'm good. It's impilo.
You are in the arts industry, you are dominating, now you are an advisor to the minister, you are all over the place, you are appointed as the, what? Gauteng Arts Council.
Yeah.
Let's just talk about Nongelo as a kid, up to the point where we met. You are now the National General Secretary of SACAY.
Nongelo as a kid, I grew up in Soweto. I loved the arts. I used to utilize the Kareta Kuntlung to do the beauty contests. My house, to a point where Ash already was stressing a lot, and she banned me from ever inviting the whole community to the house. But it grew. I grew. I got into events as a teenager. It grew. I became an activist in the space, and that's where we met again through those spaces. So through SACAY, I was then the Secretary General of SACAY. For those of you that don't know what SACAY is, SACAY was the Youth and in Arts and Culture Forum.
Don't say was. SACAY is.
Okay, I'm speaking as a former. For me, maybe my sentence construction was wrong.
Yeah.
So I am the former secretary of that structure. So it was a structure at the time for me that was a youth organization that mobilized young people in arts and culture. So yeah, that's how it started and that's how it's been going. So then later I found
You know, I like how fast you are, ne? Because
Yeah.
you're trying to get me not to talk about whether did you make it in primary school, how naughty were you, why are you skipping all this
No,
part?
I was very naughty. I just didn't want to get to that part.
Yeah.
Because people know me as an innocent person, so I don't want to confuse people. But I was very naughty, but naughty in a good way, Khotman, you know. I remember when I first started primary school, when there were things that I didn't like. I went to, at the time, white predominant schools. And as a black child in a school or in a class of majority white kids, I would always raise issues and questions.
Yeah.
And I think that's where my activism started. I was sidelined throughout my whole primary school because of my questioning or my big mouth, if
being
I can call it.
vocal.
Yeah, being vocal. And I guess at the time, other kids also couldn't understand it. But one thing that I actually liked throughout my primary and my high school and my college life, according to, let's say, Mwana Natwenya, is that my mother actually never beat me for it. She always said to me, you better be studying. So it was almost as if she could see from the back of Norman, or had distracting. But obviously as a parent,
It's being curious.
Yes, as a parent, you'll never admit that because it would be like you're giving your child ammunition to misbehave. Hey, my mom was called in those offices a lot of times, from primary to high school. High school, it got worse because we faced literal racism. For those of you that would know, I went to Words with High, and those of you that would know Words with High was always on the news about racism. So I was one of those students who always
So
fought.
wait a minute.
Yeah.
So the school that you went to was always popular in racism.
Yeah, no, it appeared a number of times. And when you still had that show, Deborah Petter,
Yes.
it featured there. It featured a lot of times. So, and I was always one of those students in the forefront of some of the issues that the kids were standing up against. If I can speak about the experiences.
I was going to say, what are some of those issues that
I remember very well them creating a class called 9X.
9X?
9X, yeah. So that was it was like you extremely naughty kids. It was called the X class. And part of what made me resist even further or fight the system even further at high school is that the examples that they would make would be, now you guys want to be activists, we'll treat you like activists. They would take us to a ground, Khutman, and make us play with stones and dig in graveling. And for me, that time, I'm a teenager. For me, that time, that just went, hey, Robben Island.
Oh, yes,
that's
you
how,
had to.
Yeah, that's how fast my mindset was thinking. And I resisted. I said, I'll not do what you want me to do. A punishment must be a punishment, but not in this form. So I was that type of kid that knew what sort of punishment could be punishment and what sort of punishment is now stepping out of line. And to a point where we would be referred to as baboons, as gorillas, and all those sort of things. I stood against those things. I fought against those things. And I tried to contest for the class rep, the RCL.
Yeah.
And obviously...
you were not going to get it. Yeah. But you still attempted.
Yes. But it came to a point where they could no longer deprive me from those things because obviously the popularity grew to an extent where they couldn't necessarily control.
Yeah.
So whether I had that participation to be in the RCL or not, my voice and my presence was always strong and big. So whatever I would rally behind, students would rally behind it. And I think for some smart reason, they then realized, actually, we can't prevent this person from participating in these RCL things. Then they actually, I would say, allowed. And then they eventually allowed me to be contesting for those positions, and I got it. And they thought maybe perhaps it would contain the radicalism in me, but it didn't. But what I appreciated about it is that it also showed me another side at that time about leadership. So it started growing from there. And when I got to college, I contested for SRC presidency, and I was the SRC president of the Ekurhuleni East College. So I was then leading about 5,000 students.
Wow.
And I remember when I entered into that college, I wasn't so popular because majority, now it's a change of scenario, because I went to the so-called Model C schools,
yes.
Sorry. I went to these Model C schools. I'm now in a college where majority of the students are from different communities. So obviously you might not relate because you grew up in a certain way, you hang out with certain people, so your mindset is different. And I remember I contested those SRC elections, and I won the class rep elections. Moving to the executive elections of the council, how the elections then worked is that they would take SRCs from the different campuses to go and vote for the executive SRC. And there was a guy who was very popular in those elections, very, very, very popular. He stood out personality-wise in terms of the crowd, and he had the support of the students. But in that meeting that we had as SRCs of that college, there was a rule in the constitution that said the chairpersons of campuses are only allowed to contest the presidency of the college.
Only the chairperson.
Only the chairperson.
And that person was not a chairperson.
He was a chairperson.
Okay.
So he was very much eligible to stand for SRC presidency. Me being me, I wanted that thing because you must remember now, I've experienced it, I've learned about it, and now I'm having a different understanding of what this thing actually means, called leadership.
What did it mean?
For me, it meant you can't change your circumstance if you are not in the forefront. You can't be a participant, a paimasanglitso, a votang fela. You can't just be a participant that listens to instruction. You can't just be a participant that does not see something bigger than what it's supposed to be. So for me at that time, I had my own vision in terms of the student movement in the FET colleges should be like. And I had a huge challenge because it's something I couldn't necessarily express to my peers or to my friends, because for me, my thinking at that time was a bit too different from others. And I realized, no man, here, I need to apply a strategy, and it's exactly what I did. I don't remember what I said in that meeting for about 30 minutes.
Yeah.
I held a debate and a conversation, and management is there. And I twisted the whole thing, and I said, actually, management is not even supposed to be here. Because this is an issue of students and SRCs.
And the students started cheering.
Yeah, yes, and the SRCs, why that meeting started cheering. And I dealt with the facilitators of the process, which was management, because you are not supposed to be here. This is an SRC conference, a meeting of students where they need to elect their executive.
You're here to influence decisions.
You need to play an observer role.
Yeah.
And some of my peers at the time probably didn't even know what an observer role is. So from there, I started capturing an audience, and this is where I learned strategy and tactics. I started capturing an audience. We moved. The meeting ended me being elected as the SRC president, and amended the constitution.
Wow.
And from there, management said, you are going to become a problem.
Yeah.
They identified it from onset.
Yeah.
So from there, I led a number of campaigns on campus. School transport fees. We learned that other FET colleges around the country, students were getting the transport fares, and our students in our campus were not getting those things. I led that campaign. We successfully did it, and our students started getting stipends for transport. And one of the campaigns that we also led is that they created a system that was not necessarily enabling for people at that age who are students. I mean, you can't lock gates and say, once you are in, you are in. I mean, you're not at a high school anymore. You're not at a primary school anymore. So those are the sort of campaigns that we led. But for me, those smaller things, I didn't realize that actually gave birth to a different energy within me. Years went later, I then started becoming a youth activist. I participated in political structures. I underwent political school and training.
Wait, did you complete your studies at the high school? Obviously, you did.
High school, actually, I got failed. I failed high school.
So then how do you get to?
So I went to an FET.
Oh, so they admit you without.
And I went to an FET, and I failed knowing that I'm going to fail, because I was told months in ahead that you are not going to make it to the next grade.
So Nongelo, you didn't do matric?
I did my matric at an FET, which is a level 4.
Oh, okay.
So I did my NQF level 4 at this FET college.
Okay.
In marketing, which is a vocational training.
Okay.
So I did not do the NSC grade 12. So as I was saying, that it then gave birth
so FETs were more or less also.
Yes, it was vocational training.
Okay.
And at the time, it was not so fashionable. I remember I was so not happy that I'm going to an FET. In my mind, I thought, okay,
I looked at it as a college, so it's not necessarily a college.
So it is a college. It's a vocational college. It's further education and training. It's FETs. Okay. We have those around the country.
Okay.
And from there, we actually even.
Also, if you're a dropout, then you go there.
Not necessarily. You could have dropped out.
No, you were a dropout.
No, I was kicked out. I was kicked out, systematically kicked out. But no, I don't think that's how we should look at FETs. FETs now, I appreciate them even much more better. And funny
they're
enough,
actually much
better.
I agree with you.
I then went and studied.
But you were a dropout.
By force, by systematic. But look, I'm thankful, because I don't think if I had not went through that process, it would have not inspired.
You wouldn't be this strong leader
that
you are now. Yes.
Because imagine leading about 5,000 students, college students. For me, that meant something. Who have real issues. In high school, when you are leading high school and primary, there aren't necessarily real issues. There are a lot of real issues there, because that's the beginning of where young people get into being young adults. So the setup is different. So as I was still saying, I then became a youth activist through political structures, underwent political training. I went back to the FET system to influence sitting SRC presidents to formulate what at the time we called the Gauteng FET Leadership Council. So we put together all the SRCs in the province, and we said to them, if you look at university, they've got a structure called SAUS, which has a powerful voice. So the vision there was to mobilize FET leadership nationwide, but we said we need to start this in Gauteng.
But what's the intention of doing that?
There was a big intention, because SAUS sits in conversations that give direction on policy, on budget planning, and also on who gets appointed in councils of the universities and who gets appointed, etc., etc. And at the time, it was difficult to really conscientize that, to say, guys, why is it really important, like you are asking? And I had to sell it to say, this is why it's important, this is why it's important, this is why it's important. And fortunately, my peers at the time brought into it. And we launched the first Council of Provincial SRC Leadership. So what it then meant that the CEOs of FET colleges were organized. And the argument was, you can't have the managements and the councils of FETs organized, but you can't have the executive leadership of FETs not organized. Because their voice then only ends at council meeting where there's only 2 representatives of the SRC sitting in a council of about 20 people. So the maths, the number, and the balancing of influence becomes a challenge. But if you are then able to mobilize and organize yourselves at a provincial level, you are able then to speak from that point.
But at that time, why are you even concerned about that? Because all you have to do is to go to an FET college and get the qualification that you need or the result that you need.
It was my curiosity and my overthinking and my overanalyzing. I analyzed my institution. I analyzed institution by institution at the time. I analyzed the sector as a whole, as the FET sector. I remember at the time when the NYDA was hosting the Woofty Festival. When the NYDA was mobilizing for the Woofty Festival, the FET sector, they were not engaged in it. And I called leadership at the time to say, you have not engaged the FET sector at a world conference that speaks about the following. And which other better audience is to participate and engage and form part of that conference than the FET sector? I was then thankfully given the go-ahead to mobilize the FET leadership that attended Woofty.
Yeah.
And we made significant contributions in that conference. So, and I think after them...
And you know who did that event?
I know it. Yeah, I remember. I remember you with the balloons.
Hey, when rubbish.
Yeah, so at the time, that was me, and it grew, and I got into arts and culture activism. I got called by a lady called Osonika Mazongai and said, hey man, you know, there's this youth structure. I see you participating in it. And then I got into one meeting of theirs and they asked me to coordinate artists in Ekurhuleni. I started off at the regional level in SACAY. I started coordinating at the regional level in SACAY. There was a gap. I started coordinating at the provincial level in SACAY.
Wait. You were at an FET?
Yes.
You completed?
I completed.
You passed?
I passed.
And you got what?
It was an NQF level 4, which is equivalent to a metric. Yes.
Okay, and then...
And then I went to Boston, sorry.
Okay.
I skipped that part.
Yeah, because
yes, you are trying to get the...
Yes, because now you are jumping all over.
All right, no.
Yes.
So I went to Boston to study public relations.
Okay.
So I studied public relations at Boston, which was a diploma at Boston on public relations. And then I also did a certificate through UNISA on public relations.
So you did public relations and you got a certificate?
I got a certificate from UNISA and then I got a diploma from Boston.
And your aim is to be
My aim was to be a PR specialist.
Yes.
Of which I graduated and completed that.
And then how do you end up being an arts leader?
So this is now, I'm done at Boston. I've graduated. When I immediately graduated, it's now an issue of how you're going to make money. My mother then says to me, I paid for you to go study this thing. Now I want to see what you were learning. And then I started doing hair PR. That's now the arts element coming in.
Yeah.
And then I started making a lot of realizations and introspections about the sector.
And remember, you are raised by parents that are in the arts industry already.
Yes. And it was always problematic because in everything that I would do wrong or right, I would always be referenced to, you're ashamed to, or you know. So it would always intimidate you in one way or another. So I then get influenced through this PR thing on being more curious and interested in the arts. I meet Bo Romeo. I form part of SACAY. I'm an activist now.
But how are you meeting these arts people?
I got
Because
invited to the first meeting of SACAY, and I'm a member.
That's when 2016?
16.
Yes.
Yeah, 2016. I'm a member. I'm coordinating Ekurhuleni. I'm coordinating Gauteng. Boom, I'm the SG of SACAY. And I remember the president, Romeo, saying to me, I think he didn't necessarily have an idea of my equal radical background.
Yes.
Because I'm sure at the time...
Oh, yes, you just went in.
Yeah. So I just walked in. I was that guy with the glasses asking questions now and then and just speaking whenever I'm spoken to. And then he said, yeah, Mara SG, hi, when I got you are the one who must speak English, yeah. And I'm like, this one. And I kept quiet.
Yeah.
And as time went...
But then, where did you form SACAY? Which... Because
So
SACAY is more Ekurhuleni people.
No, SACAY was formed before we even joined. SACAY was formed in Limpopo. It started as
remember
Lakai.
I engaged Romeo in 2015. I was doing as Saada. That's when I met him.
Correct.
And then, so SACAY was formed in Limpopo.
Yes, it was first Lakai before
Okay.
it was SACAY.
Okay.
And then through broader consultation, it became SACAY. But even when it became SACAY, we came in after when SACAY was launched. So we did not launch SACAY. But we came in and we also played a role in SACAY. So I'm that person now. We're doing the sit-ins. We are marching into SABC.
Wait, you're from SACAY. It's South African
Arts and Culture Forum.
Youth Forum.
Yes.
What are your aims when you form SACAY?
So SACAY's aim or mandate was to represent the voice of young people in the arts and culture sector. Young people were always had a smaller voice in general in society. And young people in the arts were not necessarily organized. And there was a need for young people in the sector to be organized because there were issues that directly affected young people. And what better way to coordinate young people so that they can be the ones who champion the interests of youth? Whether it was access to information, access to skills transfer issue, a funding issue, and that was SACAY's mandate. My vision to it was, this is a very strategic and a powerful instrument that now speaks to a whole different thing. Because yes, we can yes, we can do those sit-ins, yes, we can be screaming from the outside to say we want funding, but how much are we actually influencing the processes in the industry? That is when now I shared with my NEC at the time, when I was SG, to say, we now need to start lobbying that we want to see representation of youth in the boards, in the councils of government. That's because these boards, they affect artists directly, whether from a policy point, from a funding point, from whatever point. And I said, President, we can make all the noise that we want to make, but if we are not participating in the direction of where the money must go.
Let me ask you a question. You form the South African Arts and Culture Youth Forum, right?
Yes, correct.
You say you want to advance the issues of the youth
people,
in the arts and culture
Correct.
industry. Where do you go to? I'm thinking you are already a political activist.
Yeah.
Romeo is also a political activist. He's from Limpopo, you are from Gauteng, and there are all other young people there. Where do you say is your next destination after the first broad meeting?
The first destination was to mobilize, because you can't go into any battle, if I can call it, and you don't have the ground, or the numbers for it. And one of my tasks was to grow the numbers in SACAY together with other leaders. We then started launching provinces officially. We launched provinces, we launched regions. SACAY today, in every region of the country, there's a regional structure of SACAY.
But then you didn't have money.
We didn't have money. We did
How
all
do
of
you
this.
launch all these things
We
without
did this with no money. And I must give, till today, a huge salute to the TG and the president of SACAY, who tirelessly worked to organize whatever they could, even if it was
TG is who?
Palisa
Yes.
Makhatu, yeah.
Yes.
Those are two individuals who are so hardworking and who are so determined. And whether there's money or no money, one thing they always said is that we must make it happen.
Because there's a lot of young people out there that would love to do what SACAY did, in any other industry. It doesn't have to be the youth and culture industry. But I'm trying to say, what was the template that made it work?
It's activism and advocacy. Because when I say activism can never be determined by the material condition. Activism will always be determined or be motivated by the outcome of what we want to seek to
Ideologies.
achieve. The ideology. So there was an ideology. An ideology will drive you. I can give you an example. Let's say, do we think when in its formative years, when the ANC did not have money, when it was led by priests or formed by John Bangalale Dube, there was no money. But look at how big the organization grew over the years. So if John Dube stopped and said, hey, there's no money, we can't do this, we would not be where we are today. If Romeo and Palisa also at the time said, we don't have money to do what we do, it would have not even produced or contributed to some of our successes because we are products of that organization, we are products of that activism. So today, some of the young people and the women that we lobbied for as a sector or as a group who are now sitting in strategic positions, if we had sat back and said, we've got no money, some of them would not be sitting in those positions. And why? Because that was our strategic objective. And now we are slowly entering a phase where we are here now. What do we do? And what is our next phase? Our next phase is to see the total participation and contribution of young people, and in particular black creatives, women and youth participating in decision-making processes in the arts.
2 questions I'm going to ask you. I like the idea of strategic positions. One is going to be, who out of SACAY managed to grow and get those strategic positions? Number 2 would be, with age, you are no more becoming youth. What's the sustainability plan? Because you guys have been leaders since day one.
True. So I wouldn't want to be mentioning names, but we have made strategic advancements or nominations or deployments, if I can call them, in the background.
You are one of those examples.
Yes, I am. I'm a product of that.
Yes,
I can
you are one
say
of those examples.
My first ever official entry into that sort of space as an administrator was made possible by SACAY. And it grew and it grew and it grew. There are young people who are sitting in different panels, in different boards and councils at different structures who are from SACAY. And in terms of a sustainability plan, we've got provinces and regions for a reason. Because you can't expect to lead at a national level when you have not went through the ranks or went through the processes or learned through the processes. Every organization must have a succession plan. And SACAY does have that succession plan. But it would also be premature to say, I need to let go because there's an age question. When the structure has not been fully, when we feel perhaps the structure's foundation is not as solid as we would want it to be.
So are you saying the structure of SACAY is not as solid as it's supposed to be?
No.
And I'm saying this because questions are being raised. Even the minister said it, that SACAY is run by somebody who's no more youth. We all love Romeo. He's a tough leader. He's a good leader. He's got the vision. And you are about to say that there's a reason he's still there, even though he's no more youth.
You know, I think it's unfortunate that those conversations are happening. And I also at the same time understand the question because it's a South African Arts and Culture Youth Forum.
Yes.
But
let's also not forget that the NYDA is not run by youth only.
No, it's not run by youth.
Yes, I'm just saying.
Yeah. And even historically in other youth organizations, there's never been a time to say, you're 35.
Yeah.
No, there's never been a time.
No, there The ANC Youth League, you are 35, you are out.
Yes, but you
Don't
could
say
be,
there's never
you could
been
be
a time.
35 and be elected in the
Yes,
youth league.
yes. And B?
You could be elected at 35 in the youth league.
And do what?
And if you are elected in a conference, for example, you're elected into the NEC,
Yes.
for example. I'm 35, there's a conference. I'm eligible according to the constitution, remember?
Yes.
Because it says from 14 to 35.
Yes.
So I'm still within the range.
Yes.
So if I get
You are
elected,
beyond 35 now.
No, I'm just giving an example.
Yes.
I'm 30, for example, myself now. I'm
Yes,
35.
but I'm talking about, you are
Anyone
trying
else?
to justify that if you're beyond 35, you can still be elected in the
No,
youth league.
I'm giving,
saying
I'm
how
giving,
so?
I'm giving an example so that I can
Okay.
relate it back to your
Yes,
question.
yes.
So you can be elected when you're 35 and to find that the next conference will sit in the next 3 years and you will be 38, 39.
But is that fair though?
No, but it's fair because the constitution says you are a member of
But
the
you're
youth
no
league.
more youth.
But no more youth determined by what?
No, but
by
whether the constitution is extended, you are no more youth. You are no more 35. You need to stop off. Rather be an advisor, be something.
But what is the there's the universal age for that, that somehow also argues the youth brackets, because the other universal debate could be at 40 you could still be regarded as youth. So what does the National Youth Development Policy say? I mean,
Yeah.
it speaks about those young people who are over 35 and how then they are integrated into the system. And it's very unfortunate because there are
So
people,
is that what you would say if you were still leading SACAY and you are beyond 35?
no, I wouldn't make it about an age issue.
Okay.
I don't think age, for me personally, I don't think we should be obsessed with the idea of age.
But we should be obsessed with calling ourselves youth.
No, we should. No, but I mean, it's a relation. If I relate to,
The thing is, I'm trying to, and my friend shouldn't be angry, Romeo, because you know Romeo loves SACAY,
yeah,
right? But people are saying, what's the continuity plan?
Okay.
And I'm asking you because you are the former national secretary.
I'm going to
Why, when you turned 35, you resigned?
because also
You are
I know-
35 and you resigned.
Yes, but I know we all have different roles.
Yes.
We all have different mandates.
Yes.
And
So I
I'm-
want you to justify so that by the time he comes here and sit
Yeah.
with me, I'm already marinated.
So we all have different mandates and we all have different missions and we all have different things. And I as a person felt that one, I have participated and made my contribution. And the vision that I had, that I wanted to see within the organization, was achieved collectively, together with my NEC colleagues. And to answer your question, what good does it do if we're going to remove someone based on age and rush to the issue of putting someone that is preferred to be called at a particular age to lead young people?
It's like removing a pillar of this powerful structure,
you
knowing
can't-
that if you
you
remove
can't-
that
we can't
pillar,
do that.
the structure collapses.
And I think it's
And
also,
I think, sorry
Yeah.
to interrupt you, and I think a lot of people that are saying that might be using it as a strategy to collapse SACAY.
no,
Remember, it might, we might say, no, the leader must go, step down, knowing that once he does that, the
It is.
structure collapses.
For me, it is about that because, look, leader Romeo is a strong leader in personality. And for me, the moment... Fearless. And the moment we
Knowledgeable.
knowledgeable, everything we can think of. The moment we lose leaders like that, for me, it's always the beginning of losing direction.
But don't we have to think of taking those leaders and give them another bigger structure that's national? Because then there has to be, one way or the other, continuity plan. Because you also don't want people saying there's no continuity plan and then they move away. I feel like, if
Yeah.
organizations like if SIFSA made it,
Yeah. True.
you then have to take people from such powerful organizations,
Look,
elevate them. Because I feel like at the moment, he's going to be wasted. Because people are going to use this youth thing to attack him, and then what then happens? Because
I hear what you're saying, but I also want to just dispel the notion that SACAY doesn't groom leaders. I think that's not true.
it does groom leaders.
It does groom leaders.
Hence, I wanted you to mention, because there's a lot of grooming that SACAY has done.
I mean,
a lot.
we've got the former provincial chair of SACAY, Thabiso Mhlava. He's doing amazing things. He's no longer the leader of SACAY, but he's doing amazing things.
And all over the country.
Eddie Ngomane, he's following in the same space that I'm in. He's participating in panels and boards. He's a former leader of SACAY, and that is.
Oh, Eddie is no more with SACAY.
Yeah, he's no more with SACAY.
Oh, on my phone is still saved as SACAY.
Those are, you see, we all can't take away that thing. Those are
Nongelo SACAY.
those
What
are
was SACAY?
products. Those are products of SACAY. Those are products of SACAY.
So we have to keep rolling.
We have to, and it's not as if we are speaking about an individual who
Is not here.
who is not here. And
Yes.
it's not if we are speaking about a leader who doesn't have a vision.
Yes.
Or it's not if we are speaking about a leader who does not support its own structure and
Yes.
its members and its leaders. He's one of the leaders who invests so much in others
Yes.
and gives so much in others. But I just feel most of the time is misunderstood.
Yes.
He's got a genuine heart.
Yes.
He's got a genuine love for the arts. And I think those are sort of leaders that we need. I love the idea to say, should we not be preparing him for something else? But
I was shocked that they are sector leaders. At the moment, Romeo is not even one of them.
No, but also leader Romeo knows where his space is. So we can't dictate somehow a direction for him. I think he knows where his space is.
Also, he just needs to
Yes,
focus
a number of
there.
times we've had conversations to say, I think strategically, President, go and occupy this certain agenda or
Said,
space. He's like, no, SG, those are your things to do.
Yeah.
Me, I'm here. And I liked that because I'm like, this is a leader who knows where his terrain and where his space is. And we all have different abilities and capabilities. And that's what I absolutely love and appreciate about that. And by the way, I'm still a member of SACAY. It's not
Yes.
that I've left SACAY. I'm still a member of SACAY.
And the
I'm just a
achievements
former
through
leader.
SACAY, you got appointed to the Gauteng Arts Council.
Yes.
You are
Major
now
events.
working with the Deputy
Yeah,
Minister.
There was quite a lot. So it was the Gauteng Arts Council.
Yes.
It was first the Ekurhuleni Creative Council.
Yes.
Ekurhuleni Creative Council, Gauteng Arts Council. Gauteng Arts Council, I got reappointed into another panel for major events, and then later participated in other panel structures. And then boom, I found myself working with the Deputy Minister. So what I'm saying is that in some way and in some form and in the core, SACAY had a huge role in playing that because it put me in situations and in moments where I need to be thinking a certain way and preparing myself for a certain way. And now I'm here in those spaces and I'm still carrying those voices and those aspirations and conversations that we still used to have. So people might think, I'm sure Basazwani, or I'm sure Basakhulumisana. It's not even the case.
So are you now part of the advisory panel or something?
No, I had to, I left all boards and panels when I got appointed in the office of the Deputy Minister due to, and obviously it would be conflict of interest, etc. But I must also then say, I'm no longer with the office of the Deputy Minister.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
So I'm now a consultant. So we are cool, man.
So you got fired?
No, I never got fired. No. I don't have a record of being fired.
Okay.
So I just genuinely felt that I need to withdraw myself for now so that I focus on a new vision that I have for myself. And I wanted to undertake further education. I'm weighing my options as to what sort of further studies I want to do. And I also want to take up a lot of training, leadership training and et cetera, so that I can be fully equipped for the path that I want to take. I see myself being a leader in a different form now, and not necessarily in organizations or in councils or in boards, but I want to consult. I want to groom myself more further on a number of things.
Your mother's influence in your career, how much was it? You were always seen with your mom.
Yes.
You know, she did the Black Panther. You were all over the world with her. I mean, you walked big red carpets, you know, and I feel like that also elevated your status.
No, it did. I can't run away from it. I won't sit here and say, it didn't play a role. People must not think it's because of my mom. It did, but what it
I think
did
you even have pictures with Rihanna or something.
Yeah, I know, yeah. Hey, come me only. Hey, umponse batho le mafatshe. Oh, yeah, umponse batho le mafatshe. I remember in some rooms I would just sit and there would be all these big, I'll call them global superstars.
Yes.
And you know, there's also one thing she taught me is like, you know, when you're in those situations, it can be just really a one moment thing in your life, or it can work for you, or you can utilize it to your advantage. So we advised each other, myself and my mom, because she obviously had experience in terms of age and craft, and I've always been a person who thinks in a different direction. So I would give her strategy advice. So that did play a role, Khutman, I don't want to lie to you, because in whatever that I do, before anyone speaks about my achievements, they would always say, where's Kimona Mang?
Yeah.
Kimona,
Yes.
you know, or Mekon.
Yes.
And in as much as at some point you feel, hey, this is becoming too much, but you can't take that away because you need to embrace it. I'm embracing it. It's my legacy. She worked 47 years in the industry professionally, not to be not recognized.
Yeah.
So I need to live that up. I need to continue that. And I'm actually even inspired by her work and efforts that she's contributed in the industry. So it did play a huge role. And it played a huge role because my mom herself was an activist. People don't know this. My mom was part of KUSA. KUSA was a federation that was under
Creative Workers Union of South Africa.
Ah, there you go.
Yes, I was a member of KUSA.
You're an OG, you're an OG.
Yes, I was.
So yeah,
always there.
the kids told.
Yes, no, I was there. Yes.
Yeah, and she was the vice president of KUSA at some point. So I liked the fact that, you know, it's hard in this country to be sitting in those sort of situations and still be looking for work.
Yeah.
Because who's going to hire you? Because now you are part of a certain thing. So I really applaud that generation because today's generation, I honestly don't see them.
So this activism thing didn't start with you guys?
No, it didn't.
Now you know your mom was...
Yeah, no, she was an activist.
Yes.
She was an activist.
Yes.
She was an activist. And I think even from my roots, some of my family members were actually political activists. Not necessarily here in South Africa,
Yes.
but in Malawi, because we've got Malawian origins. So they are political activists and they participated in the politics and etc. that side. So it's something I also feel it's running within the blood. But my mom was an activist. She stood for the truth. She fought for what's right. And those are some of the things that I take with me. It's just that now I'm not as radical as before. There's a different way that I've appreciated life and to approach life situations. And that's the stage where I'm at life.
Looking at your mom's life and her humility, and you always talking about this activism, you know, it's like... you know, hence I'm asking how much has she influenced you in certain things, you know, and the void that she left in your life?
It influenced me big time because it taught me to think like an entrepreneur, to hustle, and to be well-balanced on the ground and well-balanced in everything that you do. The void in my life now, I won't lie to you, it's very huge. Because, funny enough, there was no person that inspired me like how my mom did. Because a lot of people don't understand you. They don't understand what you think, they don't understand what you're about. But the person that you talk to the most and you share things with the most will understand you. Like I said, you know, when I graduated, my mom said, I paid for PR. You are going to do my PR. I want to see this PR. So that, you see, that's that. My mom would literally throw me in situations where I'm like, how do you do this? And it's like, figure it out. And it's done. And I would figure it out. And now when I look back, I'm like, actually, those are the biggest blessings or lessons that I've learned. When I started doing events when I was a teenager, she would loan me money and say, I'm loaning you money to do an event. And I remember the first event I did. And people who know my mom, she's very strict. We grew up being afraid of her, like afraid of her. It was only in later in life where we started, you know, being cool like that. All of us. My first event that we did, it didn't make money. I'm 19. This lady just gave me, I think about...
And you started the company at the age of 17, 18?
17, yes. I started the company at 17, Karaba Africa, that she registered for me.
Yes.
She registered because she said, you're doing all these things very informal. Whatever you're doing, it's informal. Register a company, man. I'm like, this lady, register a company. I don't even know what is register a company at the time. One day we woke up, said, Cipro. Went to Cipro. When I registered my company, went to Cipro when we were still physically
In that queue then?
In that queue.
Yes.
And she registered things. And she made me trademark almost all the things that I was working on. So when I look back, I'm like, hey, but this person was actually...
She was a
preparing me for
visionary.
She was a visionary.
Yes.
And most
And
of the
that
staff-
time when you think because of your English and big words, you think you're smarter than
I
her.
think I'm smarter than her.
Yes.
Like, no, man, I know this. I got this one. And not even. And I learned the biggest lesson because being a teenager, there was an event that I used to do in the East End called Ben City. So there was a very big movement at the time, which was my concept. And she used to say to me, you need to trademark this thing. Obviously, I'm 17, 18. I don't see the fuss about what she's saying. You know what happened? A year later, someone else came, trademarked
What you wanted to do.
What
Yes.
I wanted to do. And I couldn't even no longer do.
Because she's walked that path before.
Yeah.
So you're still talking about the 19-year-old.
Yeah, so I'm the 19-year-old who got a loan from this very strict mom. And I oversold what I was trying to do to her. and I think for some reason she knew because she had that she had just all the time. And here I am. I'm doing my event. Hey, I've told her all sorts of lies.
And the friends told you they
Yeah,
were going
my
to
friends
support.
told me
I always
all-
say that to people
No,
that
no, no.
don't ever believe.
No.
Tabang, I hope you are listening there.
I'm hyped up. I'm hyped up.
He's like you. He
Ah!
believes friends.
No,
And I
this
said
is-
before
yeah.
his event, I don't trust your friends. Because I've been there before.
Aish. Yeah, but it's a learning experience. So boom, she comes. She comes late. She was shooting. She comes after the event, and I'm looking at her. She's coming in. I'm like, whew. Yeah, ne? She doesn't even greet me. She walks past me, and there's no conversation at all. And I'm like, oh, but man, this is I'm 18, 19 at the time. I owe this person about 80,000 rand that I took that I sold. I'm like, hey, listen, this is how it's gonna work. This is how it's gonna work. This is how it's gonna work. We got home, and she said to me, so ikai chalet. You know, and I need to explain ikai chalet. And I'm like, ish, so. And you know what?
And
she
you're
actually-
even adding lies there.
I'm adding lies. And you know what she said to
The
me?
other guys that were supposed to come, the car, what,
Yeah.
broke down. Stupid lies.
And she said to me, I knew this thing wasn't going to work. I knew it from the moment you started telling me this. But I actually didn't want to discourage you. I wanted you to go through this. But I'm not saying you don't owe me. You owe me. So because you owe me, you are now going to work certain hours on my programs until I tell you you've paid off your debt. So then I started working for her projects now. I was working on her projects because she was also an events coordinator. She used to do stuff. Then I started working with her until I paid off my debt. And it took me, and I thought it was a joke, and it wasn't. It took me a good 5 years. After 5 years, then she only told me that, yeah, now you've paid me off. I don't know how she was paying me. I don't know those hours or those
Yes.
rates. I didn't even
But
want
as
to
long
ask.
as she was deducting
Yeah, as
your
long as she
money.
was deducting, because
Yeah.
also I was still continuing to do events. But also my events grew to be successful. I ended up having very successful events as a teenager. My events would be packed, and I was happy at that time to say, at least I got through the rough patch, and I got to a stage where my events were successful.
What makes an event successful?
Hey, events can mislead you, eh?
That's why I'm asking that question.
Because, you
What
know-
makes an event successful? And these days it's worse.
It's very
because you
worse,
can
yeah.
get sabotaged.
No, very, very.
You can
Because-
work on an event for 6 months and somebody with big monies come last month.
Because also people think when a venue is packed out, they think that the old promoter has made money. And sometimes it's not necessarily the case. Because the money is not necessarily anymore on ticket sales. The money is in sales, or whether it's alcohol or sponsorships. That's where most people make their money now. So it's a tough one for me to answer as to what makes an event successful.
So you can't really answer.
For me now, it would be a long debate. Hence, I'm like, I wouldn't know what would make an event successful.
Nongelo, I'm worried about you. You've resigned at SACAY. You are no more the advisor to the minister.
Deputy Minister, yeah.
Yes, deputy minister. And you've got your mom's legacy. And there was accusations that you want to make money out of your mom's legacy. Who to do it than you?
I think that's a very, can I say the word stupid? I think it's a very stupid thing to say. You didn't work hard all these years for your kids not to be able to work.
I tell them every day.
And it also doesn't mean that they should relax. But at the end of the day, Arthur Mofokate is their father. And there should be no other person to come and tell them about Arthur Mofokate than themselves. It's their legacy. You left it for them. And in as much as they are hardworking, creative entrepreneurs, but your work also played a huge role in enabling them to work and to come into the system. So there's no difference in that. Why is it that when certain other people in different sectors and in a different race do this thing, we don't call it all these sort of names and things like we call our fellow black brothers and sisters in this space?
What I'm trying to understand with the story is, it's your mom's legacy. You're trying to capture it.
Yes.
Is it a film? What is it?
So, it's a Connie Chuime Foundation is hosting the Connie Chuime Student Film Festival.
You formed Connie Chuime
Foundation.
Foundation.
Yeah, we started Connie Chuime Foundation.
After...
No, in 2020, when she was alive.
Yes, because I thought it was...
Yeah.
It's been around for quite some time.
It's been around for some time. And in fact, what people don't know, we've been doing workshops for the past
Yes,
couple of
because
years.
I remember you did invite me to one of them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Throughout the country, we do workshops. We go to province, community to community, doing workshops in rural areas. And she loved cultural exchange. She did a first cultural exchange a few years ago in New Orleans, and it's something that she used to do in different parts of the world. So why can I not be inspired and continue that legacy? Because who must do it? I can't allow...
So somebody is saying the legacy must die.
So someone is saying, technically this is mine, because someone is saying, I did this, I wrote this, and whatever. And I don't have a problem with that. As long as you can... I was not in those conversations, for example. And if you can't even prove that you had a conversation with this person or you had an agreement with this person, it was just courtesy for me to be even listening to you. Because how am I supposed to be listening to someone who I don't know, who I've never heard of, who I've never met, who says they only met this person once and they shared this idea with them? Where are the facts? Where is the evidence? So overall, for me, it's protection of the legacy and protection of the name. It's not about me gatekeeping or trying to make money off the legacy. It's left, we contributed in it, some of us. We contributed, I might not have been her agent, I might have not been her manager, but I played a role in also in that brand. As little of the role that I played, I think it was very significant. My sister played a role in it. My sister ran a lot of the admin and ran a lot of stuff. My brother played it. So it's our working hours and it's our legacy. So we can't be entering in a conversation about who we must share this legacy with. This legacy is supposed to inspire others, impact communities, and people who are supposed to be gaining from it, not just us or the family. Because she was also a person who believed that you can't rise alone and not empower others.
Yes.
Or you can't be there
Yes.
and not use it to
Yes.
advantage.
Yes.
She says, I want to be able to use my influence to impact communities, which is why all her programs that she's ever done have been so community focused.
So my question then is, let's say you are removed from the situation. Who else or who's supposed to take the legacy forward?
Look, we're there as the kids.
Yeah, because remember, I'm not understanding the story quite well.
Yeah.
You know, we read headlines,
Headlines, yeah.
and the headlines just says, Nongelo just wants to chow.
The money.
Yeah.
But also, I think, me and you come from a space where we know what really happens behind the scenes.
Yes. Hence, I'm asking you, and I feel like between me and you, there's nothing to hide.
There's nothing
We
to
need
hide.
to just discuss these things as they
So
are.
there'll always be a bigger plot to the story. And as someone who comes from that space and grew up in that space, I understand it completely. And it's, I think for me, it's just a phase thing. It's going to pass. It's going to pass. The attempt is not going to be successful. I'm not going to remove myself from that situation. And I'm not going to lay low because...
How do you even remove yourself from your mom's legacy?
No, you can't. Where do you begin to do that? Where do you begin? We might not even share the same vision. So I'm not going to lay low on it, and I'm not going to lay low in the work that I do, because also you must remember, sometimes it might not even be about the foundation. It might be about you as a person. You are becoming too much for other people. You are becoming an obstruction.
But don't just tell them, guys have resigned. Where you think?
Yeah. So yeah, and that's also the narrative. That's
Because I've resigned.
I've resigned.
If I'm being attacked,
and I'm happy that all these things happen when I resigned, because I'm no longer there. Even the things that they're trying to associate me to. I was part of Mushito, yes, but don't summarize the financial years of Mushito and then try to associate me to it.
Oh, Konje, you.
Yes, because
I put you there,
once
Konje.
yeah, so you see, come far. So don't summarize things.
I even forgot that. I remember on election day,
I was sitting right behind you.
I was
next to you.
I
Yes,
drove the Kumbi to go fetch you guys.
I was next to you. So you see, the struggle comes from. So we can't, Goodman, we've fought so much and went through so much for something that hasn't even gotten there yet for it to be collapsed. I'm not going to allow that. And I'm not arrogantly so. I am prepared to defend what I've earned, and I am prepared to defend how hard I've worked, and I am prepared to defend my mother's legacy. Because it's not about money, it's not about me. It's about the impact that it could do and the opportunities it could bring to other people. People don't even realize that. So I'm not going to take the back seat. But like I was saying, people want to always push narratives. You then summarize as part of a 30 million board. I always say to my friends and say, because these publications are associating me with Gauteng Arts Council, 8 million, Mushito, 30 million, now you're running away with 1 million. I'm like, I can gladly even say, Goodman, if I had to open my banking app, I don't even have what people assume that I have. I don't have it. But the mind has always been that, hey, these ones are chowing off the mother's legacy. Hey, this one has been sitting in all these funding things. He's been stealing money. It has not been my principle. If ever I believed in someone and in someone's idea, it is not because I know them. It's not because I'm connected to them. It's not because I'm taking a bribe from them. Because I genuinely believed in what they can do. There are many people that, even in meetings where I sit, where I fight, and I fight like I know this person. I'm like, you can't disadvantage this person. This person must get this funding. And I'll jump and make many reasons. And in a world, they would say it's unprofessional conduct. But also my nature of activism, it wouldn't allow me to sit back and watch people being disadvantaged unfairly. So I think those are the compromises that some of us are now facing as consequence.
And when you're going through things like this, knowing that you come from an organization like SACAY that is forever fighting for people's rights, are you expecting their support? Are they supporting you? What happens? Because I feel like this thing happened, you are in front pages, and suddenly all of us are watching from a distance. I'm saying all of us.
Yeah.
All of us are watching from a distance.
It's very dynamical. And it's dynamical in the sense that, one, I'm a former leader of that structure. And two, it would somehow feel that I've detached myself from my fellow activists or comrades, if I can put. Because the other reality is that the moment you assume an influential position or be associated with influence and power, there will always be an expectation. There are people who had expectations to say, hey, grand, and those expectations couldn't happen for a number of reasons, and I'm not saying that they were meant to happen. There's that element. And then there's also an element to say, the reality is that when we are then in these new responsibilities, we are so consumed that we somehow, unfortunately, just lose communication with people who are our forces, but it does not mean that we are fighting. A lot of people have tried to paint the narrative that I'm fighting with Romeo, or me and Romeo don't like each other. And it's something that they've always attempted to do. Mm-hmm. And I can say now, I'd never see a situation where me and myself and Romeo are fighting. And I also cannot expect leader Romeo to be fighting my battles. And in the same way that in the time when we used to work together, there would be moments where I would tell him that this is your battle. And not because I'm distancing myself from him, because you need to calculate and do analysis and timing and space and strategy. Say, now, there will be a time, I can tell you, where there would be a need for that sort of support. But I think now these are my challenges, with whatever skeletons they're coming with or dynamics they're coming with. They're my issues and they will pass. I was trained through those processes to manage these things. I can't be going back there like a baby.
In fact, you are a PR specialist.
Yeah, so yeah,
you should be dealing with your nonsense.
I can't be going back there and trying like a baby. Yeah, and I've not even utilized those skills. You know,
yeah. As yet.
No, I've not.
Yes.
I've not. And I sit and I watch some of these things. I'm like,
and the funniest thing, we are the ones begging you to come talk to us.
So it's
You're
one of those.
Just chill there.
I'm chilled.
We are saying no, but I need to find out from Nongelo what's happening.
Because also I believe I shouldn't be feeding a story, because what if I'm dealing with someone who's just desperate and looking for publicity? I can't be.
No, but you see, what bothers people like us, it's not you feeding the story or anything, is protect. No. For me, remember, I know the family.
Yeah.
For me, it's about your mom.
Yeah.
Because I know what she would say if she was alive. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
For me, it's even not to do with you. It's about just the legacy of your mom.
Yes.
Can it be protected? Can it be safe? Because whatever you're going through, I've got kids as well.
Yeah.
This thing might happen to them in future.
Of course.
So they need to see.
I mean, I'm sure it's even happening to them now. That
Yes.
You are only doing this because your dad's Arthur Mofokate or whatever. And it's a very wrong thing. You know, I've got a big problem with it, and I want to go back to it in my... It's wrong. Even when... Who is supposed to be getting these opportunities?
Yeah.
They are South African citizens. We are South African citizens. When we are creatives, they are creatives. They're entitled to the same opportunities. Why must they be a question about Arthur, Connie? They can't give nepotism, give favoritism. Why? What are they supposed to do? What is Oami supposed to do? She mustn't DJ anymore. AJ must not do events anymore. My sister must not act because the mother was an actor.
Now you understand.
Yeah. So
I mean, for me,
it's very wrong.
I know my kids can't get booked in government gigs because of who I am.
And it's wrong. Because there's no facts most of the time. And most of the time, we always work on assumptions and narrative.
Because one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you about this was to also teach people about what's happening behind the scenes, because people don't understand. It might be looking awkward now, people saying Connie Chume's son wants to feed off her legacy. Right? My kids are still alive, but they're not allowed to be booked for certain things.
Yeah.
What more when I'm gone?
We
need to have these conversations, whether we like it or not.
Of course, we need to.
We need to address this
but
kind
I
of
think
things.
it's also because people don't necessarily see the whole arts thing as entrepreneurship. Because like I said, there's no issue about it.
Yeah.
You are smangmang Vandermerva, you had a farm business, whatever. You grow up, you inherit the business, you do the same deals with the same people that your dad deals with. No one speaks about that.
But with us in the
arts
and culture,
it happens.
the legacy must die.
And now we're not even speaking about these big figures that other people are speaking about.
It's small amounts.
The little nyana things that we are trying to also survive on, they get questioned. So, riska bereka, riska create funding, riska bereka because no, manawa Connie Chuime. It has never been like that.
Maybe people think there's some royalties, big royalties that you are chowing or
Actually,
something. They don't understand.
I want to say this. My mother was professionally in the industry for 47 years. She passed on completing 47 years in the industry. And in my mother's death, there was nowhere where we could go and knock and say, Sizocela or Sizoclima. There was nowhere for us to claim. I want that to sink into people. 47 years of work. How many shows has this person done? How many adverts has this person done? How many things has she been part of? 47 years of work, and there was not even one rand that came from anywhere that said Nai Malaga Mama Win. So I want people
and it might not even come.
And it will not come because they don't pay for royalties, they don't pay for repeats in this country. So musicians are even in a better situation when it comes to the arts, because actors are at a complete disadvantage. 47 years. So if she did not train us to be those hustlers or entrepreneurs that she trained us to be, what was going to be our situation now? What was going to be our situation now? My sister is a young female. She's got a daughter. My brother has got 4 kids. I'm also
Last year when we were sitting on a table together,
yes,
you remember when she was given
the lifetime achievement.
Lifetime achievement. We were all sitting together.
Yes.
Sisters, you and other,
Yeah,
you know.
I remember.
Yes. And it was so painful that even that last speech, she was not even given time to make the last speech.
And mind you, and I'm not saying this with arrogance, and I'm not saying it should be done to anyone, but I'm saying, mind you, this is someone who's getting a lifetime achievement.
You're not allowing her to talk.
You're not allowing her to talk. You're playing drums while she's talking. And when I traveled with my mom overseas, and mind you, people in America won't know her as much as we know her here. But they would not know the value of a brand or a career. But the treatment that they give their artists, whether at which level or whatever level, is something else. I can tell you something. I went with her on a number of occasions, but one that will always stick out for me was when she was shooting Black Panther. When we got to the airport, there was cars waiting outside for us. And it's not as if it's a ceremonial thing. It's things that they do and organize. We had a stand-on car and a stand-on driver. Other things she didn't need because she was not that type of person also. They offered her an assistant, offered her a bouncer. And honestly, there was no need for that because no one knows her that much there. So, but for the fact that they can put value and respect to it, for me, symbolized a lot. And you can't shoot anything in America if you're not part of a union. Try that in South Africa. They don't even want unions. You're a problem when you start speaking a union language. My mom's 47 years, and in the few moments of her life where she's done international productions from the US, is where her money will be coming from. From a royalty point, from her union, from all the stuff that she was paying. Those smaller things she used to do internationally are the ones that we are expecting compared to the more of the contribution that she had in South Africa. In South Africa, like I said, not even R1 is going to come out of her work or her productions that she was part of or anything that she was part of in South Africa. So I ask myself, how many more of other people are going to go through this? And let me say this, and would not be as fortunate. They would have not. I'm glad, I'm very happy with what you're doing with your kids because you have trained them. You have prepared them. You have made them to be leaders. You've taught them to be entrepreneurs. So they are well groomed and well positioned, but there are not many families like that. There are not many leaders like yourselves and leaders like my mom who taught and prepared their kids to hustle and to put themselves out there. How many artists' kids now are going through the most, but their dads and their mothers have hit songs or were part of big shows? I'm very interested to somewhat go into the lives of our late icons. I would love to do that because the stories that we hear are unfortunately very sad stories. But every morning when you wake up and you switch on the TV, this show is being played every single day. It even gets repeated late at night. And I ask yourself, what is the family of that actor eating?
Hence, now you understand why I was insisting on talking to you. Because I knew you were going to teach the country something. And not just the country, the world.
Yeah.
Because they need to understand what this fame means. At the moment, you're being attacked. Front pages. You're still mourning.
Yeah.
And this is what you're going through.
No, there's no sympathy. There's no sympathy.
The question now that I have is, with all these accusations, have people tried to approach you, to talk to you nicely, to try and find a way forward?
No, they have.
Oh, so you guys are at least...
No, we have. And we've tried it numerous times, and unfortunately, it fails. And then I think it's another problem that we need to speak about as an industry. We hear about taxi mafia, what is it, mafias?
The protection fees and
Protection
stuff.
fees
Yes.
and taxi mafia and all these sort of things. For me, this symbolizes a signal of something that's coming. Because it also means that there could literally be people who sit and watch outcomes study funding. And what if that's the situation? I'm saying what if, I'm not saying it's a situation. But what if there are people out there who have made it now a new opportunity for them to be opening newspapers and to be seeing who got funding and take advantage of the most vulnerable, whether alive or dead. Because the reality is that there'll be those who'll be alive, but will not have the strength to protect themselves from people who want to bully them into something. It's even worse when they are gone. So it's a conversation you must have, because in my case, I could just be the one because I'm associated to a name that's in the spotlight. But what if there are people who are getting funding who are not in the spotlight and this is happening to them, where there's extortion of some sort? So it's a different
So you're suspecting there might be grant funding mafia, sort of?
No, we haven't. We haven't. We can't say it's not there. We might not have actual many cases that we can reference to, but this for me signaled that.
You know, I nearly forgot that I'm a host. I nearly said something.
But please say it.
No.
Off
But
air, say it to me.
yes, because you're making sense.
Yeah, it's very possible.
Now 2
Because
plus
also-
2 is making
because-
sense now.
because you must
It's
also
adding
remember,
up.
when people now start making reference that they know that you've had this, they've had this, they've had, where is this individual or these people have gotten the time to be studying what you've been getting? So now your security is compromised. And that's a conversation that's also not being told. It also goes back to the conditions of the sector. There are many artists who can't afford protection for themselves. And this causes health concerns, stress for others. There are many artists who can't afford medical aid. My mother paid her own medical aid. There was no medical aid she was getting from nowhere. And it would have been also a joke if my mother had died at a public hospital. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with a public hospital, but I'm saying it would have been another thing to say, oh,
With a 47-year legacy.
Oh, 47, they go Black Panther, washonele bara, washonela gupi. And I'm saying again, there's nothing wrong with those places, but I'm saying in the reality of South Africa, that would have been the conversation.
But Nongelo, you see now that this is the reason I insisted on talking to you, and I don't think this should be the last time.
No, it should never.
Because I feel like you are an activist. You've been an activist for too long. You are still in the industry. And these are conversations that we need to have.
Yeah.
Because it's rare to find somebody's offspring that's also an activist.
Yeah.
I'm lucky to be sitting here talking to you about these things. Because I know the same issues that we're discussing, it might be AJ 2 years from now, 3 years from now, depending on when I leave this
God
world.
forbid, yeah.
Yes.
So it's true, and I must also throw this in. Actors are mostly also effective, even musicians. Most of them can't actually get bonds from banks, we know this. They can't get financing.
All the time.
They can't get financing. So I'm putting these dynamics so that people understand why it's important for the protection of legacy and for legacy to work for itself, and etc. So if you can't get a medical aid, you don't have UIF in some cases, you can't get a bond for a house, you can't get financing for a car, why are we subjecting these people to so much scrutiny and we want to actually see them miserable and not progress, them and their families? Because the first thing we do will always target them, their principal, the breadwinners, and the family.
Are we that brutal though?
No, we're brutal. So I'm asking myself, there are people who have been saying, that institution that gave them must revoke the funding. But I know in my head, I'm like, that's so brutal, because what if you are dealing with the reality where a house of that particular artist has not been paid off? And you are saying that, I'm not saying people must pay off their houses in Mali funding, but through the work that they will have been able to create for themselves, legitimately so, they would have been able to take care of certain things. What if you're dealing with that situation? Also, the reality that they don't realize is that, and artists don't like speaking about this, but it's the truth, because I'm in that space, and unfortunately, these are things that we hear and we see, and our colleagues speak to us about. There are artists, today who struggle just to be able to put food on their table, and people don't speak about that. And yes, it's a very painful and shameful thing to say, but it's the truth, it's fact, it's reality. Because the type of work that they do is contractual and it's part-time and it's freelancer. So what happens when there's been 8 months of no work?
We are scared. We are embarrassed.
And then boom, when this person gets, it might not be Arthur, it might not be Connie Chume's kids, it might be another artist, boom, gets a job, it's a big hoo-ha. How did they give him? I'm all famous. You don't know what the person has been going through for the past 8 months. You are going to come and attack that person like that. So we really need to learn to be factual. We need to learn to understand. And I think also it's an issue of Ubuntu, because there's no sense of respect for anything. Like for the fact that...
Why are celebrities hated so much in this country?
It's envy, you know. I also think envy forms part of it. They might say whatever they want to say about artists and celebrities, but people envy this life. And I can say this freely, which is why artists, even politicians, want to hang around them. It's for the social relevance. Even business people want to hang around them. Because you've got what they don't have. They might have the money, they might have the power, but they don't have the social currency. And also artists must learn to utilize that social currency to their benefit. Because there's no ways where you could be able to influence society in whichever way through your craft, and you don't use it to your advantage. You must use it to your advantage.
Yeah, Nongelo, you know I can talk to you forever. You know, we're running out of time. Are you still in politics?
Yes.
ANC?
Yes. I'm still a member of the African National Congress, and I'm not ashamed of it, because there's nothing to be ashamed of.
Few months to go before you leave the Youth League.
Yeah, no. Obviously, I withdrew from all ambitions that I had in the Youth League, but I'm still participating in the Youth League programs and activities because I'm constitutionally still within 35.
I love that. Constitutionally, you're
I'm
still a young person.
Look, the ANC contributed a lot in terms of my thinking.
In fact, if you didn't make me aware, I wasn't going to know that you are now 35.
No, I'm 35 now.
No, I look at you as 30.
I'm 35. So what I learned and what I got trained politically in political school and through my years of activism, I want to utilize that to a greater good.
And good luck on your political career, because I know your strength.
Yeah.
You know, I know your strength. To me, you are known more as a politician than, you know.
Yeah.
And I just wish you luck that you make it there.
Thank you so much. And all the best. And this is the platforms that we need. We need these platforms so that we can be able to tell stories and create alternatives. Because unfiltered. I always say the biggest problem the biggest challenge was that in the years of our democracy of power, we never enabled alternative forms of media and communication. So the narrative and the story has always been told in a certain way. And when these platforms are there and they're existing, it allows for a different voice, unfiltered, to speak and to be heard. So congratulations on that, and keep up at it. And we want to see more people watching the show so that we can have a voice.
Thank you.
It's all right.
That was Nongelo. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you.